Good day everyone, we are the Group 1 and today we will be discussing about another subtopic for the application of congruences, which is the round robin tournament.
Okay, let's start. Congruences can be used to schedule round-robin tournaments. In this section, we show how to schedule a tournament for n different teams so that each team plays every other team exactly once. Okay, so dito po, ang gagawin po natin is to schedule or pairings ng isang team sa ibang team. At isang beses lang po sila mag-meet sa isang tournament. So, for example po, we have 6 teams. Then, Team 1 will play Team 2, 3, 4, 5, and Team 6. Okay, so actually po, we have a different formula naman po on how to schedule using round-robin tournaments. But in this section, since we are dealing with elementary number theory, ang gagawin po natin is to apply the congruences. Okay, so the method we described was developed by Freund. Okay, next. A round-robin tournament or all-play-all tournament is a competition in which each contestant meets all other contestants in turn. So, ito na po yung nabanggit ko po kanina lang po. Okay, let's proceed na po sa steps to schedule a round-robin tournament for n teams using congruence. So, dito po meron tayong 3 steps. Ang ating step 1 ay, if n is even, label all the teams from 1 to n and set n equals n. So, meron po tayo ditong dalawang n, isang capital letter N at isang small letter n. Yung small letter n po natin ay nagre-represent siya ng number of team if it is even or odd. At yun namang capital letter N, yan yung nagre-represent ng total number of teams. So yan po yung ating n is even. Next, if n is odd, we add a dummy team as the n plus 1 team and label all the other teams from 1 to n and set capital letter N equals n plus 1. So dito po, pag yung n natin, yung small letter n is odd, kailangan nating magdagdag ng isang dummy team para maging even. Okay, so in both cases, our n is even. Okay, next, step 2. For round K, solve the congruence I plus J is congruent to K mod n minus 1. Okay, so ito po yung gagamitin nating formula sa pagkuha ng pairings. And then, take note po that the small letter K represents the number of rounds. For each 1 equals 1, 2, until n minus 1. If J is not equal to I, pair team I with team J. And then, if J is equal to I, we have to pair team I with team N. When N is odd, the teams paired with a dummy team is any round gets a bye, or it doesn't play any game in that round. Okay, so magbibigay naman po kami ng example mamaya para mas mapadaling ma-apply yung ating 3 steps. Okay, our last step, repeat, step 2 for K equals 1, 2, until ma-reach po natin yung n minus 1. So dito po, uulitin lang po natin yung process hanggang maabot po natin kung hanggang ilang rounds po yung sa isang tournament.
So here's example number 1. Use congruence to schedule a round-robin tournament for 5 teams. Also, find the total number of games in the tournament. So, yung goal natin dito is to schedule a round-robin tournament for 5 teams and gagamit tayo ng congruence. And another goal is to find the total number of games in the tournament. So here, n is equals to 5. Yan po yung number of teams natin. And kung makikita po ninyo, the number of teams is odd. So we label the team as 1, 2, 3, 4, and add a dummy team as team number 6. Kasi baga, dun sa rules natin, kapag add yung number of teams, kailangan natin mag-add ng dummy team. Thus, n is equals to n plus 1 is equals to 5 plus 1 is equals to 6. So, yung magiging total number of teams natin is 6. So, for round 1, we solve the congruence I plus j congruent to k mod n minus 1. So, yan po yung magiging formula natin. So, let's say I is equals to 1. So, ilalagay lang natin yung formula natin na I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Since I is equals to 1, isa-substitute lang natin, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng 1 plus j is congruent to 1. Yan yung value ng k natin kasi nasa round 1 tayo, mod 6 minus 1. I-transpose lang po natin yung 1 sa kabila, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to 0 mod 5. 0 mod 5 is also congruent to 5 mod 5. So, yung magiging value ng j natin is 5. Since j is equals to 5 and not equal to 1, which is yung value ng I, Team 1 will play Team 5 in round 1. So, for I is equals to 2, gagamitin ulit natin yung formula na I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. So, i-substitute lang natin yung value ng I, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng 2 plus j is congruent to 1 mod 6 minus 1. I-transpose lang natin yung 2, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to 1 minus 2 mod 5 since 6 minus 1 is 5. So, isolve lang natin yung 1 minus 2, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to negative 1 mod 5, and kapag sinolve natin yun, magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to 4 mod 5. So yung magiging value ng j natin is 4. Since j is equals to 4 and not equal to 2, yung value ng I, Team 2 will play Team 4 in round 1. So, for I is equals to 3, gagamitin ulit natin yung formula na I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Since I is equals to 3, magkakaroon tayo ng 3 plus j is congruent to 1 mod 6 minus 1. Again, ililipat lang natin yung 3 sa kabila, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to 1 minus 3 mod 5. Pag sinolve natin yon, magkakaroon tayo ng j is congruent to negative 2 mod 5 or j is congruent to 3 mod 5. So, magkakaroon tayo ng value na j is equals to 3. Since j is equals to 3 and it is also equals to 3 yung value ng I, Team 3 will be paired with the dummy team and will get a bye in a round 1. Siyempre, yung rules kasi dito, once na yung value ng j and yung value ng I magkaparehas, ibig sabihin yung in-add natin na dummy team, yung ilalagay sa round robin. And this means na yung Team 3 hindi maglalaro sa round 1 kasi wala siyang ka-pair. Since Team 4 and 5 have already been paired in this round, kasi baga dun sa kanina, yung Team 4 na pair na natin siya sa 2 and yung 5 na pair na natin sa 1, we don't need to solve for I is equals to 4 and 5.
So, for round 2, we solve the congruence I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. For I is equals to 1, yung gagamitin po nating formula is yung dati lang naman po, yung I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. So, i-substitute lang po natin yung I to 1 plus j is congruent to 2 mod 6 minus 1. So, ita-transpose lang po natin yung 1, kaya magiging pong j is congruent to 1 mod 5. So, since j is equals to 1 and equals to 1, team 1 will play the dummy team in round 2. Kasi po baga, kapag yung value ng j and I ay magkaparehas, meaning yung team na yun ang magiging pair. And for I is equals to 2, paras lang po yung formula na gagamitin natin. I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Then we do the substitution, which is 2 plus j is congruent to 2 mod 6 minus 1. So, ita-transpose po uli natin yung 2, kaya magiging pong j is congruent to 2 minus 2 mod 5, which is 6 minus 1 is equals to 5. So, j is congruent to 0 because 2 minus 2 is equals to 0 and mod 5. So, j is congruent to 5 mod 5. So, since j is equals to 5, not equal to 2, team 2 will play team 5 in round 2. And for I is equals to 3, so yun po, yung dati din po na formula yung gagamitin natin na I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Then we do the substitution na 3 plus j is congruent to 2 mod 6 minus 1. And then transpose the 3, which is magiging j is congruent to 2 minus 3 mod 5. So, j is congruent to negative 1 mod 5. So, ayun na po. Yung magiging answer niya is j is congruent to 4 mod 5. And since j is equals to 4, not equal to 3, team 3 will play team 4 in round 2. Since team 4 and 5 have already been paired in this round, we don't need to solve for I is equals to 4 or 5. Kasi po, yun na nga po, na-paired na natin yun dun sa team na 4 and 5.
If we continue this procedure and finish scheduling the other rounds, we need up with the preparing shown in the table below. This table shows is the tabular form. We have round 1 to round 5. Team 1 paired with team 5. Team 2 paired with team 4. Team 3 paired with dummy team. Team 4 with team 2. And team 5 paired with team 1. And if we have continued the process to the round 5, the tabular represent the result of it.
If n is even, there will be n minus 1 rounds, each having n over 2 games. Thus, the total number of games in the tournament will be
n over 2 times n minus 1. On the other hand, if n or the number of teams is odd, there will be n rounds each having n minus 1 over 2 games and 1 bye. Thus, the total number of games in the tournament will be n minus 1 over 2 multiplied by n. Therefore, if n is equals to 5, which is an odd number, we have n minus 1 over 2 times n. Substituting n by 5 is equals to 5 minus 1 over 2 times 5 is equals to 4 over 2 times 5, or 2 times 5 is equals to 10. Therefore, the total number of games in the tournament is 10.
Example 2. Use congruence to schedule a round-robin tournament for 8 teams. Also find the total number of games in the tournament. Hints. Here, n is equals to 8. The number of teams is even, so we label the team as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thus, n is equal to 8. For round 1, we solve the congruence I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. For I is equals to 1. I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Then 1 plus j is congruent to 1 mod 8 minus 1. J is congruent to 1 minus 1 mod 7. Then j is congruent to 0 mod 7. And 0 mod 7 is also congruent to 7 mod 7. Since j is equals to 7 and 7 is not equal to 1, then team 1 will play team 7 in round 1. For I is equals to 2, we have I plus j is congruent to k mod n minus 1. Then 2 plus j is congruent to 1 mod 8 minus 1. Then j is congruent to 1 minus 2 mod 7. J is congruent to negative 1 mod 7, and negative 1 mod 7 is equals to j congruent 6 mod 7. Since j is 6 and 6 is not equal to 2, then team 2 will play team 6 in round 1.
For I equals 3, we have I plus j is congruent k mod n minus 1. Then substitute I for 3. Then we get 3 plus j is congruent to 1 mod 8 minus 1. Then we have j is congruent 1 minus 3 mod 7. Next, we get j is congruent to negative 2 mod 7. And then, our final answer is j is congruent to 5 mod 7. Therefore, since j equals 5 is not equal to 3, then team 3 will play team 5 in round 1. For I equals 4, I plus j is congruent k mod n minus 1. Then we have 4 plus j is congruent 1 mod 8 minus 1. Next, we have j is congruent 1 minus 4 mod 7. Next, j is congruent negative 3 mod 7. And then we get j is congruent to 4 mod 7. So therefore, since j equals 4 is also equal to 4, then team 4 will be paired with the value of n, which is 8. So team 4 will play team 8 in round 1. Okay, so since team 5, 6, 7, and 8 have already been paired in this round, we don't need to solve for I equals 5, 6, 7, and 8.
For round 2, we solve the congruent I plus j congruent k mod n minus 1. For I is equal to 1. I plus j congruent k mod n minus 1. 1 plus j congruent to mod 8 minus 1. J congruent to minus 1 mod 7. J congruent 1 mode 7. Therefore, since j is equal to 1, 1 is equal to 1, then team 1 will be paired to the value of n, which is 8. So team 1 will play team 8 in round 2. For I2, I plus j congruent k mod n minus 1. Substitute the value of I is equal to 2 plus j congruent 2 mod 8 minus 1. J congruent 2 minus 2 mod 7. J congruent 0 mod 7. J congruent 7 mod 7. Therefore, since j is equal to 7 is not equal to 2, then team 2 will play team 7 in round 2.
For I equals 3, which is I plus j is congruent k mod n minus 1. Substitute the value of I, which is 3. 3 plus j is congruent to mod 8 minus 1. J is congruent to minus 3 mod 7. J is congruent negative 1 mod 7. J is congruent 6 mod 7. Therefore, since j is equal to 6 is not equals to 3, then team 3 will play team 6 in round 2. For I4, which is I plus j is congruent k mod n minus 1. Substitute the value of I, which is 4. 4 plus j is congruent to mod 8 minus 1. J is congruent to minus 4 mod 7. J is congruent negative 2 mod 7. J is congruent 5 mod 7. Therefore, since j equals 5 is not equal 4, then team 4 will play team 5 in round 2. Since team 5, 6, 7, and 8 have already fought in this round, we don't need to solve for I equals 5, 6, 7, and 8.
If we continue this procedure, finish scheduling the order rounds, we end up with the pairing shown in the table below. Schedule in tabular form. In tabular form, we have round 8. Team 1 paired with Team 7. Team 2 paired with Team 6. Team 3 paired with Team 5. Team 4 paired with Team 8. Team 5 paired with Team 3. Team 6 paired with Team 2. Team 7 paired with Team 1. Team 8 paired with Team 4. If we continue the process up to the round 8, the tabular form represents the result of it.
So if n is even, there will be the quantity of n minus 1 rounds, each having n over 2 games. Thus, the total number of games in the number tournament will be n over 2 times the quantity of n minus 1. In the example below, the n is equals to 8. Therefore, n is equals to 8. If we have n over 2 times the quantity of n minus 1 is equals to, we're going to substitute it by the value of n, which is n 8 over 2 times the quantity of 8 minus 1 is equals to 4 times the quantity of 7 is equals to 28. Therefore, the total numbers of games in the tournament is 28.
Here are some documentation in making this report. We are the numbers of Group 1.
Thank